Every video in this series has been one piece of a larger picture. Today, we finally put them together, and what they add up to is the most important idea in artificial intelligence, and maybe the most consequential one of our lifetime. Systems that improve themselves. We've followed Claude from how it's built through memory, training, safety, interpretability, alignment, agency, teams of agents, scaling, reasoning, evaluation, and data. Every one of those was a layer. Today, in the finale, we stack them all together and look hard at where the whole trajectory actually points. Recursive self-improvement and the road toward something smarter than us. We'll cover what self-improvement really means, how it's already quietly beginning, the argument that it could suddenly accelerate, why it might instead stay gradual, and why everything we've built determines how this ends. Let's be precise, because this idea attracts an enormous amount of fog and hype. Recursive self-improvement does not mean a model secretly rewriting its own mind in the dark, waking up hostile overnight. It means something far more concrete and already quietly underway. AI systems that help build the next generation of AI systems. Think for a second about everything it actually takes to make one of these models. Someone has to write the training code. Someone generates and filters the data. Someone designs the experiments, runs the evaluations, hunts down the bugs, proposes better architectures. Every single one of those jobs is something a capable model can now genuinely help with. And here's the loop that changes everything. When AI helps build a better AI, that better AI can then help build an even better one. The output of one generation becomes a tool for making the next. The thing we are building becomes a builder in its own right. That's the recursion. And it is exactly the reason this particular story doesn't have an obvious, comfortable stopping point. This is not science fiction, and that's the part almost everyone misses. The loop isn't a switch that flips on some dramatic future morning. It's a gradient we are already climbing, right now, today. Models write a growing share of the code that trains and runs models. We saw in the very last video how they generate synthetic data to teach their own successors. They help run the evaluations, judging other models' work. They assist human researchers directly, suggesting ideas, catching subtle errors, accelerating the slow grind of experiments. None of these on its own is the whole loop slamming shut at once. Each is a single strand of it, quietly tightening. And every strand has the very same effect. It makes the people building the next model faster and more capable, which shortens the distance to the model after that one. So, when you ask the natural question, when does recursive self-improvement actually begin? The honest answer is a little unsettling. In pieces, it already has. We are not waiting for the loop to start. We are living inside its early, partial, still loose version at this very moment. Here's the idea that genuinely keeps some researchers up at night. If each generation of AI makes the next one easier and faster to build, then progress might not just continue steadily. It might compound. Normally, better tools help us, but humans stay the fundamental bottleneck. We can only think, design, and work so fast, no matter how good our instruments get. But now, imagine the toolmaker itself getting radically, qualitatively smarter at every single turn. Then each step could arrive faster than the one before it, and improvement starts feeding on improvement in a tightening, rising spiral. This is the famous intelligence explosion argument, the real possibility of a fast takeoff, where capability rockets upward in a shockingly short span of time once the loop gets tight enough to sustain itself. If it actually plays out that way, the gap between roughly human-level ability and something far beyond it could be crossed not over patient decades, but frighteningly quickly. Faster than our institutions, our safeguards, or even our basic understanding could possibly hope to keep pace with. It's a serious hypothesis, taken seriously by serious people, and it is precisely the scenario that makes everything else in this series so urgent. But there's a strong case for the other side, too, and it genuinely deserves to be heard. Intelligence is simply not the only ingredient in real progress. Even a brilliant, tireless AI researcher runs straight into walls that being clever does nothing to knock down. You still need vast amounts of raw computing power, and the chips for it take years and multi-billion-dollar factories to actually manufacture. You still need data, and we just spent an entire episode watching that supply run dangerously thin. And you still need to test every idea against stubborn physical reality to actually run the experiment, train the model, and wait for the results, which arrive at their own unhurried pace, no matter how smart you are. These are real, hard bottlenecks, and they could turn a runaway vertical spiral into a steep but steady climb. Fast, yes, but human-paced enough to watch, to steer, and to correct as we go. Nobody knows for certain which picture is the right one. Thoughtful, informed people disagree, sharply. But notice one thing they share. Whether the ramp is sudden or gradual, it still points in the exact same direction, toward systems more capable than the people who made them. Gradual does not mean safe. It just means we might get a little more time to get it right. And this is where the whole series, every last piece of it, finally lands. If these systems are genuinely starting to shape their own successors, then one question towers over all the others. What goals are running through that loop? Because whatever those goals are, the loop carries them forward, and it amplifies them at every turn. Values you build in at the very start don't stay small and contained. They echo forward into every single generation that follows, growing louder. Now look back at absolutely everything we covered. Safety. So a capable system doesn't act against us. Interpretability. So we can actually see what it's doing inside. Alignment. So its goals genuinely match ours in the first place. Oversight. So we stay in the loop as it turns. None of those were side topics or nice-to-haves. They were the whole point, all along. They are the steering wheel on a machine that is learning to build itself. The intelligence, it turns out, was never really the hard part. We're getting that almost for free now, from scaling and reasoning. The hard part, the part that quietly decides whether this entire story ends well or badly, is making sure the thing we're building actually wants what we want. That is the work. And it is the reason every minute of this series mattered. That's the picture the whole series was building toward. Self-improving systems, and why every safeguard we've talked about is what stands between us and a future we didn't choose. If this series changed how you see AI, subscribe and go back to the beginning. The story only gets bigger from here.